What's up, guys? We're back. We finally made it home after being gone for about 2 weeks on the road with that, what was supposed to be 7 races with high limit racing, ended up being 6 with the loss of Texarkana Speedway. But we are back home now and ready to recap the race from Riverside International Speedway, which was race number 10 of 2024 for high limit and race number 2 of the midweek money series. So let's jump right into it. So 38 cars. Hopefully you guys I got a new microphone here. These are different than the ones I was using while I was out on the road. Those ones actually belong to Tony Laporta, the pit reporter for High Limit. And so I got these ones in the mail. Hopefully they work okay. I got a really good deal on them. And so hopefully they are working all right. And let me know down in the comment section if they do sound better. All right, so qualifying A, we had to split it obviously into 2 flights with 38 cars showing up there at Riverside International Speedway. Brent Marks, fastest overall in flight A at 11.563. He was followed by Tyler Courtney, Brady Bacon, Kyle Larson, and Tim Crawley, who was quite the story in this race tonight. Brad Sweet, he was quickest overall in Flight B and quickest overall at 11.266. Corey Day, how about Brian Bell with a third place effort? Tanner Thorson and Spencer Baston would be the top 5 in Flight B. Jumping into the heat races, so heat race number 1, Tim Crawley would get the win and go to the dash. This guy had not ran a 410 sprint car since the very first high limit racing event ever held back at the Lincoln Park Speedway in 2022. And it had been a year or so since he'd even been in a sprint car in general, and that being a 360. So Tim Crawley was very, very exciting in this race. The grandstands were absolutely jam-packed for this one, and a lot of Crawdaddy fans were in the pit area and in the grandstands. So Crawley won it. Brent Marks was second. Those two would go to the dash. Chris Windham, Brenham Crouch, and another fan favorite, Derek Hagar, drove from 8th to 5th to grab the final transfer spot in heat race number 1. Now, there was another driver that was in this race that was battling up there for the win and looking for a dash position, and that was Brady Bacon, but he was running second and got into the wall in turn number 1, climbed up on top of the wall, did a little 50-50 grind off the K-rail, came down, and there was a lot of damage to his car. We would see him back later on, but he would DNF in the heat race. Heat race number 2, Kyle Larson would get the best of Cole Macedo in that one, and he would go to the dash with the heat race win, but it did not come easy. Cole Macedo got a great start around the outside, and that was something we saw a lot in the heat races. If you start on the outside of the front row, more than likely you are going to take the lead into turn number 1, and that's what happened. So Cole Macedo put up a good challenge, but he made a mistake late in the race. Kyle Larson able to get underneath him off of turn 2 and take the win. Macedo would end up in second. Tyler Courtney would be third. He would go to the dash. Dale Howard would finish in 4th. He was a good story in this one as well. And then Casey Kane would be the final transfer in this one. After starting 3rd, he would end up in 5th. Heat race number 3, it was all about Spencer Baston. He would win this one. And then Brian Bell, who started on the pole of this race, I can't remember if he led a lap or 2 or not, but he still finished second. And he gave a great interview with Tony Laporta in the pit or in the infield after the race. Brian Bell made a lot of new fans last night or 2 nights ago at Riverside. He finished in second. Cap Henry was third, one of our full-time midweek money series contenders. He was third. Brad Sweet would be fourth. He would go to the dash. And Corey Eliason would get the last transfer spot in 5th. Heat race number 4, Tanner Thorson, who needed a really good run in this one, he would get the win in heat race number 4. He'd go to the dash. Landon Crawley, who was using one of his 4 allotted races from the Outlaws. He used one of those last 2 nights ago at Riverside. He would finish second and go to the feature. James McFadden was third. Corey Day would go to the dash in the 4th position. And then Howard Moore, another driver from around that Louisiana, Tennessee, Arkansas area, he would grab a transfer spot in Heat 4. Now the B main, a lot of big names would miss out on the feature here in this one. So in the B main, it was Brady Bacon making repairs to his car, and by virtue of a great qualifying effort in Flight A, he would be on the pole and he would get the win. Jacob Allen would finish in second, but behind them, look at some of the names that were able to transfer into this feature. Aiden Gatewood was 3rd place in this B main with Tyler Swank, the new crew chief on that car. And Gatewood would go to 3rd place in that one, and he would end up in the feature and have a great run later on in that feature. Kevin Newton, one of our full-time midweek money series drivers, he would finish 4th and grab the last transfer spot. But look who was behind him. Justin Peck, Rico Abreu, Parker Price Miller down there in 8th, and then not even pictured on this is Zeb Wise. So 4 full-time high rollers not able to make the feature out of the heat race or the B main. they would all four have to use provisionals to make the show here in this one. Also behind them, so Peck Abreu, Ernie Ainsworth was 7th. He put up a good fight to Justin Peck and Rico Abreu. Ainsworth been around a long time, a lot of wins at Riverside. He was using a 360 engine, and he was able to finish in 7th in front of Parker Price Miller, Van Gurley Jr., and then Joe B. Miller would end up in the 10th position in the B main. Going on to the dash, not a whole lot happened in the dash. Corey Day would get the win. Tyler Courtney, Brad Sweet, the top 3. Tanner Thorson, Spencer Baston. Kyle Larson did make some moves, 8th to 6th. And then Brent Marks would finish 7th. Tim Crawley would spin out on lap 1 of the dash, and he would end up in the 8th position. I don't care what you say. Even though he spun out, it's still an incredible night for Tim Crawley. Really, his career was not he wasn't known as a 410 driver, right? He was a 360 guy, would run the Chili Bowl, things like that, and that's really how he made his living in sprint cars. And Tim Crawley, it was impressive to see him jump behind the 410 after a long time out of it and make it into the feature and in the dash. So going into the feature, there were some wild things already going on all night long. The Brady Bacon crash. We had the hot lap drivers before the heat races started. There was water coming up through the bottom of the racetrack from the Mississippi River. 35, and I don't even know. There were so many things that happened. It's hard to even tell you everything that did happen throughout this race night. And I'm not gonna talk about Brian Bell's wreck. I am going to mention it right in this feature rundown, but I'm not going to be preaching safety and things like that. We've already heard plenty from Justin Fiedler and Jeremy Elliott. They make some really good points. I don't think you need to hear it from me. I think we all know that the fence at Riverside was not where it needed to be at, and it caused for some interesting and very potentially dangerous situations out there. And I'm not going to go into big, talk about it, but I think we all know that it needs to be improved. So let's go into the feature. So 35 laps, Corey Day would get the win, but he would not lead the entire way. He only led laps 9 through 35, so a majority of the race. After starting from the pole, he got past. Like I said, the outside on these starts was very, very good. Tyler Courtney would lead the first 8 laps, but then Corey Day would get going around the outside, and it was kind of a weird surface at Riverside almost the entire night. Most guys were running right through the middle of the racetrack, and then Corey Day, well, we know what he does. He's, like I've mentioned it on this show before, that I feel like he is the Sheldon Haudenschild of High Limit, right? The Outlaws have Haudenschild, and High Limit has Corey Day. They're both very exciting, and Corey Day would get going around the outside, and he would drive right by the 7 BC of Tyler Courtney and take the lead. But it wasn't like he ran away from there, right? The guy that finished in second in this one, and I've got a pink dot next to him, Tanner Thorson, needed a good run here at Riverside. He'd been there before. He'd won a USAC midget race, but he needed a good run with High Limit after not making the show and not even using a provisional at Salina High Bank Speedway. Tanner Thorson comes home in second tonight, and there was multiple times where it looked like he was going to take the lead away from Corey Day, and he did for a moment off the turn 2 one time in lap traffic, got a little bit sideways and gave the lead right back to Corey Day. But Tanner Thorson, much needed second place finish. Great job by him and that team. Tyler Courtney would end up in the 3rd spot, Brad Sweet 4th, and then Cole Macedo, he was the Durst dice roll driver. He drove from 9th to 5th, and boy, has he been fast here the last couple of races. He ran with the Outlaws at Paducah and Tri-State. He finished 7th and 4th there, and then he gets a top 5 finish with High Limit. I really wish we could have seen what he would have done at Red Dirt Raceway. He is one of our full-time midweek Money Series contenders, but he had engine issues all night at Red Dirt, so it really took him out of the championship for that. But a 5th place run to rebound is very, very good. We'll see those guys, him and Kevin Newton, next week at the 81 Speedway in Kansas. So Cole Macedo, great run for him. A very quiet, good run for Spencer Baston. He finishes up in the 6th position. He started in 5th, and I don't really remember ever talking about Spencer Baston in the feature event. I guess he just was kind of hanging around there just outside the top 5 and was able to come home with a good run. Another guy that needed a good run, and he got it, was Chris Windham. He started 11th and finished in the 7th position, and Windham had been there before as well on a non-wing sprint car. And it's kind of on the same vein as Tanner Thorson, right? Chris Windham has struggled this year. There's no denying that. Brand new team. They're still trying to get used to each other. Him and Clinton Boyles and the rest of the crew are still trying to get things worked out, the bugs worked out and whatnot. But Chris Windom, I think that they are starting to get it figured out. I know there's a lot of haters of Chris Windom out there here on YouTube or Twitter or whatever, but I do think that they're going to get this figured out, and he is a good race car driver. You aren't a USAC Triple Crown champion for no reason, right? Brent Marks finished in 8th. James McFadden 16th to 9th, a good run for J-Mac. And then Derek Hagar, I got a pink dot next to him. He drove 17th to 10th, and he was able to grab an extra $500 bonus from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Slide Job Ranch as the highest finishing local driver that night. So that was cool to see for Derek Hagar, another one of the fan favorites, and he got a good top 10 finish. Brady Bacon, after that incident in the heat race, drove up to 11th out of the B main. Cap Henry got pink dot next to him. A solid 12th place run in his Riverside International Speedway debut. Cap Henry driving for Mark Daly Racing, another one of our midweek money series drivers, and he had a solid run there at Riverside. Casey Kane finished 13th, 14th was Brennan Crouch, and 15th for Aiden Gatewood with Tyler Swank on the wrenches, and Gatewood 23rd to 15th. I know there was a lot of incidents in this race and things like that and stoppages, but he kept his nose clean, and he did a great job. Aiden Gatewood, that is a finish those guys are going to be pretty happy with. $1,525 payday for Gatewood and his team. Corey Eliason, I got a pink dot next to him. It's just, this team is either up or they're down, right? There's no in between. They're not very consistent at all. They either finish in the top 10 or they finish outside the top 15. And this is one of those nights where they just didn't really seem to have it all put together. You know, he transferred in through the heat race, but after that, just didn't seem like the speed was there. He started 18th. I mean, he did go forward 2 positions, but really nothing flashy from those guys. And they really, they got some work to do, right? They got to try and pick up the pace here as we get into the heart of the schedule. I got a pink dot next to Justin Peck and Parker Price Miller, and a P for provisional. And Justin Peck, he was the hard charger, 28th to 17th in this one. And so Parker Price Miller and Justin Peck, I mean, the track was tough to pass on early. It was, pumping up water through the surface, and it made it really fast, and it made it tough to pass. And it really bit these guys. I mean, the local guys at Riverside, they know how to get around the racetrack. They aren't going to make many mistakes. And even if they're not the highest funded teams, they're going to get around the track all right. And it made it tough for Peck, Price, Miller, Abreu, and Wise kind of got screwed on that deal. He was on the front row of the B main, got ran over on the first lap by Brady Bacon. Not even on the first lap, before they even took the green. He got ran over, knocked the front end out. Then he came onto the track for the feature and fixed it, but it sounded like there were some engine issues with that car, and so he just pulled off, didn't even run a single lap of the main event. Landon Crawley would be 19th. Howard Moore, 20th. Rico Abreu with the provisional would finish 21st. I thought for sure he would get up there and challenge for a top 15, maybe a top 10. That looked like a track that was right up Rico's alley, but it just wasn't. I mean, he went a lap down, really didn't pass many cars. I mean, he started 25th and got to 21st. And there was there was Crawley that wrecked, Brian Bell that wrecked, Dale Howard pulled off, Kevin Newton pulled off, right? So, and Larson wrecked. So, like, Rico didn't really pass anybody under green. Like, he just passed cars that had crashed out of the race. So, not sure what's going on there. Jacob Allen, he started 22nd, finished 22nd. So, some struggles there for him. Kyle Larson was looking like he was going to contend for the win in this one. He was running in the 3rd spot. He was running that extreme high line that Corey Day was, but he got into the wall in turn 1, climbed up onto the wall, came back down, and was doing the, looking straight up at the sky thing on the tail tank. And his night would come to an early end. After starting in 6th, he would finish in 23rd. So Kyle Larson's streak of no wins in a sprint car has grown to 6 now. And I'm going to do a video about that. I'm going to talk about Kyle Larson's sprint car slump here on the channel in the coming days, because that streak of 6 races with no wins is tying for the most he's had since 2020. And if he doesn't win coming up on 81 Speedway next week, then that'll be the longest streak that he has not went with a victory in a long, long time with the sprint car. So 23rd for Kyle Larson, Kevin Newton 24th. Dale Howard was in the top 10 early in this one, but he had to pull off. 25th for him. And then obviously Brian Bell, 26th, flew out of the ballpark. We all knew what happened to him. But can we all talk about just how fast he was and how cool that was to see a guy like Brian Bell get up there and challenge for a top 10, finish second in the heat race, got out of the car after the wreck, in the feature, and talked to Tony Laporta and had a good attitude about it, even though most guys would probably be pretty upset. And, for good reason. Obviously, flying out of the park is something you never want to see happen. But Brian Bell definitely made some new fans, I would say, coming out of Riverside. And then Tim Crawley would finish 27th. He got into a wreck early in this one on lap 1, got into the wall, climbed the wall. That was a lot of what happened. I don't know what is different about the wall at Riverside, but if you hit it, you're literally climbing up on top of it. We saw Crawley do it, Brian Bell, Kyle Larson, Brady Bacon, and a couple other guys would get into the wall and just climb up on top of it, come back down. And that was what happened to Tim Crawley. And then Zeb Wise, a pink dot next to him, just didn't even take the green flag for the feature. It sounded like there were some engine issues for him, and just a tough night for a tough couple nights, through this stretch of races with the Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas swing. And it was just a tough week for Zeb Wise. He did have some good runs, but I think he could have had a lot more good runs if things would have went his way a little bit more. So, that's all we've got here for this one. 35 laps, Corey Day, $20,000 win. He's now made like $43,000 and more than that in the last week or so with High Limit Racing. This kid is the real deal, and I'm going to do another video on him coming up here in the next couple days, comparing him to Kyle Larson, right? Larson says that he's the next Corey Day, Larson says that Corey Day is the next him, and I'm going to compare their stats from when Kyle Larson was 18 to when Corey Day is 18 and see how they look, because Corey Day has some really, really good numbers in comparison to Kyle Larson when he was doing it at that age as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. We got a lot more coming out here on the channel. We got about a week or so until the next High Limit race, and so we're going to be pumping out the content here on the channel. Guys, I forgot to put this race on the score of 1 to 100 down there in the bottom left. Sorry, it's been a couple days, so I forgot how to do my own YouTube channel. So I'm going to put this one on a score of 100. So let's see. I mean, the racing was pretty good in the feature, right? It was definitely tricky. It was definitely a little bit different than what the drivers are used to. It wasn't really slick or anything like that. It was pretty heavy the whole night. And Corey Day made it exciting. Tanner Thorson made it exciting. Kyle Larson, before he wrecked, made it exciting as well. But got to account for all the things, like the fence and, crashing and a lot of stoppages throughout the night and things like that. But I think I'm going to give this one a decent score. I'm not going to give it, the greatest score of all time, but let's just give it I'm going to give it a 78. 78 out of 100 for Riverside. I would like to see it on the schedule again if they can get a new fence around the racetrack. I think once they do that, this place is going to be one that fans will look forward to every single year. Not only the people that go there for the race already, it was sold out, but the people that watch at home on Flow, there was a lot of complaints about the fence and things like that. But if they fix it, I would really like to go back there with High Limit Racing. I think it could be an annual stop for the series. So, 78 out of 100, and that's all we got. So we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.